We finally got the trailer for Scream 7, and of course, we're always going to start off our Scream 7 videos by saying we always will support Melissa Barrera, what happened to her with the franchise and everything. Truly messed up, and we will always discuss it at the beginning of every video, and that's something you don't like. I'm sorry, but let's get into the trailer and talk about what exactly is going on here. So one of the first things we see in this trailer, which I thought was pretty interesting, and one of the only things that got me excited for it, is we see a couple has rented out Stu Macher's house, and of course Stu Macher was one of the first Ghostface killers in Scream 1. The house has now become sort of an attraction of sorts, and I guess you could stay at it and sort of relive those moments. You also see memorabilia from the Stab movies, which are the movies that take place in the universe that are inspired from the Scream franchise as well, and it's kind of like a meta commentary on true crime and all of that, which we do see a lot of people do want to sort of go to the spots where people were brutally murdered for some reason and take pictures there. Now that's a whole other conversation. We're not getting into that, into the whole Ryan Murphy of true crime right now. I really do love that this first bit in the trailer is sort of talking about that as well. Of course, the couple come in here, they're having their funs and all of that. They come across a ghost face. Turns out it's just an animatronic that can follow you and sense where you are. So they sort of get out of the scare of that, but they don't have time to sort of relish with this fun animatronic because a real Ghostface is here who chases them throughout the home and gives us one of the first crazy and gnarly kills. As we see, the girl is hanging from a chandelier. Ghostface has just fallen from the stairs, and as she falls, he turns with the knife pointed up at her, and she's gonna fall straight on the knife. The rest of the trailer gives us a clear indication what the story here will be, and that is a Ghostface is after Sidney Prescott. And Sidney Prescott has now moved to another town. She has a daughter, a husband, all of that, and she's just trying to live her best life after the events of Scream 5. But of course, that is not going to be a simple task. We hear throughout the trailer that Ghostface says that they grew up together and that this is for all time's sake, even calling from a Woodsboro, California phone number. So it definitely seems that this Ghostface knows a lot about Sidney Prescott and seems to have a personal vendetta against Sidney Prescott. Prescott now runs a coffee shop, and her daughter is seemingly in high school with her friends. We see McKenna Grace here is one of her friends, and we know that she is married to Joe McCall, who is a cop in the film, and his name is Mark Evans. And one of the things we see in the trailer is he gets attacked. Does he get killed? That's the big question. It doesn't seem like it. I don't think he would get killed right away, right? I don't know. We'll see how many swings this movie wants to take. Most of the trailer seems to just be a lot of chase scenes that happen to Sidney Prescott's daughter Tatum throughout the trailer. And also, of course, Sidney Prescott is another one of them. And I thought naming the daughter Tatum was a good touch as well. So definitely, I like a lot of things in the trailer, but then there's some things that I just don't know, because at the end of the day, it just feels like every other Scream movie. And I'm just waiting to see what the twist is going to be. But we'll talk about what I think the twist could possibly be in a bit. And I think a lot of people think this because apparently so much of it has been spread and people are starting to realize this is possibly where the movie is going. But we also see Gale Weathers return. So yes, indeed, Gale is a-okay and is going to help Sidney Prescott bag whoever is doing this, alongside Chad and Mindy, who come with her to help Sidney one last time. Throughout the trailer, we do also see Chad and Mindy taking swings at Ghostface, so it looks like this is going to be a bit more of a hands-on team than we've seen in the past, and I'm pretty excited to see that. It was definitely time for them to really go toe-to-toe with Ghostface, because I feel like they should know by now how Ghostface operates after 6 movies, so we'll definitely see how it pays off here. In the trailer, we also see a moment when Chad has seemingly lost something very important to him. Could this be something that has happened to Mindy? As we know, Chad is pretty much invincible. So I think Chad's going to be a-okay here, or so we think. Maybe they had us thinking throughout the whole series that nothing would ever happen to Chad, and we might ultimately see his demise. I don't know. But overall, that's the trailer until the very end, when we think we might just have heard Stu's voice. Is Stu alive? What's going on? So let's break down what we saw exactly in this trailer, because this trailer gives a lot but also doesn't give much, in my opinion. I think the first scene is really great and it's the strongest part of the whole trailer, because I really do love when Scream tries to jump into the meta commentary and doesn't take itself too seriously. I think once we get into the whole Sidney Prescott thing, it starts to really feel like the same old we've seen from Scream 1, 2, 3, 4, a little bit of 5, and I'm just not there all the way with it. I think we get some cool shots. I think Ghostface burning Stu Macher's house was a nice touch and it looks interesting, but I can't help to go back to David Gordon Green's 2018 Halloween with that imagery. Not to say that it's not going to be great or make sense, it's just like I just get that callback too soon, and I don't like when movies give me a callback to a movie that quick, you know? It should be something a bit more older, obscure in my opinion, but still, I think it could make for a very amazing shot once we see it on the film. I do like the fact that we are going to see Chad and Mindy come back, because I feel like Scream 6 was a great send-off for Sam Carpenter. Whether that was a send-off that was intended or not, I think it was great, but I really would have loved to see more of Chad and Mindy's story closing off. Maybe this gives them a chance to close that story, and I hope they're able to do it in a way that makes sense and not just bring back these characters to then just kill them off, you know, just to be a body count of sorts. Now, we have heard in the past they said they're not going to kill Sidney Prescott, which of course I think a lot of fans would riot if they did that.
Who gives a fuck about movies?
So they're not gonna go in the Halloween revenge vibe, right? They're gonna leave Sidney alone. But of course, there's still gonna be a lot of suffering that's gonna happen throughout. So my question here is, who is Ghostface, right? That's the big question. The question in every Scream movie. So what I have been going off of, and this theory is a theory that's not one I made up, it's been floating around for years since they announced Scream 7, is that of course it's a mocker. Now of course Stu is dead, or so we think. But no, in all reality, I feel like Stu is potentially just dead here, and I think his spirit may be around, or maybe, just maybe, one of his family members. Yes, because indeed we do know that in Scream 5, Stu's nephew was in fact one of the victims of that Ghostface, and that Ghostface killed them. And I think that this is going to make his mother very, very pissed. And that's the fact that her son got killed in Scream 5. Vince, who is played by Kyle Gallner, by the way, in a very early role. Really love to see the Kyle Gallner lore. Such an amazing actor. Caroline actually just got picked up. I want to talk about that movie, but let's go back to Scream because that's what we're here to talk about. But also her brother Stu, of course, being the infamous first Ghostface killers. I think that this has plagued her for decades and decades, and her family has sort of been villainized because of this. And I think that this would be enough for her to want to come and get Sidney Prescott and make her suffer, because Sidney has been seen as the hero throughout this whole time, and the Macher family probably has faced so much harassment. And maybe there's been some weird and obsessive fans that have really made her and her family's life a living hell, and then having to deal, of course, with another Ghostface killing her own son. So Ghostface has always been a thing that has plagued and been a nightmare for her. So Leslie Macher could indeed be the new Ghostface killer here, who is just trying to kill Sidney to sort of put everything away. Maybe if she kills Sidney, that's the new headline and people forget more and more about the Macher name. Who knows? I think that definitely is the right theory. A lot of people still think Stu could be alive somehow. I would definitely say that that's crazy, but crazier things have happened with Scream. It gets goofy sometimes, right? I'm going to do a theory video where I talk about the potential killers in this new movie, but overall, I thought the trailer had some amazing details that I really liked, but it also had some things that just feel, again, repetitive. And I talked about this in my Conjuring prequel movie talk, where I'm just like, I feel like the studio system is just getting lazy with it, and they just want to do the same old, same old. I think the big question is, will people keep accepting this and just letting them do the same old story again and again? Because why do I get the feeling that we're going to be seeing this story sort of move Sidney by the end to the sidelines, and we eventually start a new trilogy of sorts with her own daughter? The line, "I want to be a fighter just like you," makes me feel like we could potentially see another sort of rehash of Scream to the original films, where we might see her daughter go into college, another Ghostface killer pops up. But that's a whole conversation I have for theories. Stay tuned for that video. Overall, I thought the trailer was interesting. There were some amazing moments, like I said, but I'm just not all the way there. I need to see a little bit more, and we'll see. This movie comes out in February, so we're about 4 or 5 months away. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments down below. And as always, that's going to do it for me. Follow us for more on things you love. Check out my talk on the Conjuring prequel, because it's an interesting one, because that was just out of nowhere. But we kind of knew it in the back of our mind that they were going to always continue the Conjuring. So check out that video if you want. And as always, I'll see you next time. Stay safe, stay positive.